Back in 1977, how did a deer hunter get his information? The hard way. And that goes all the way back to the origination of deer and deer hunting, the stump sitters. People sat on stumps, watched deer, and that's how they learned about deer. They didn't have magazines, books, and videos to learn from. They had to learn the hard way, going out and observing deer behavior. I'm excited about this new segment called Flashback because it's going to give us an opportunity to go back over the last 30 years and look at some of the myths and misconceptions we've had about deer and deer hunting. A lot of us, all of us, when we grew up, first started deer hunting at 10 or 12 years old. Some of the things we learned then, and see how these things hold up today, 30 years later. A big part of deer and deer hunting's history has been to provide practical and comprehensive information for white-tailed deer hunters. In fact, that's our tagline. Another thing the magazine has done over the years is to address the many myths and misconceptions about deer hunting and deer biology. One of the myths back in 1977 was once a spike, always a spike. The perception was if you saw a spike buck, you know what, you better shoot him because he's not going to get any bigger than that. Spike bucks are normally year-and-a-half-old bucks, sometimes 2.5-year-old bucks that just haven't had the time, the age to grow antlers, and haven't had the nutrition. People would shoot a deer thinking that the deer was genetically inferior because he didn't have a big rack. We know this is no longer the case. Back in 1977, we didn't have food plots. We didn't really have quality deer management that people practiced. People shot basically the first buck they saw because that's what the law was. You could shoot a buck. Doe hunting was very much frowned upon. Today, we know genetics, you're not going to know a buck's true potential till he's mature, till he's 4.5 years old. 1977, there weren't a lot of 4.5-year-old bucks running around in deer country. Today, there's a lot more because we know more about deer and how they progress as they age. A combination myth and misconception about deer hunting over the years has been about the big dry doe, or maybe some people call it a barren doe. What they mean by this is somehow a doe that's so old that she's outlived her productivity, she hasn't had fawns in many years. That means she's somehow this old maid of the herd that's outwitted hunters for several years. Here at Deer and Deer Hunting Magazine, what we found out through scientific research is in the wild, the idea of a barren doe or a dry doe really does not exist. Does are productive in the wild for up to 12 years. And your chances of seeing a deer that old in the wild are very, very slim. In captive herds, some deer have actually bred and conceived fawns up to 16 years old. So we know that this idea of a doe outliving her productivity really doesn't hold water. There are many reasons why a hunter might think he shot a dry doe. There's many reasons, as a matter of fact. One would be the fact that a doe failed to breed this season before for whatever reason. Another reason might be that she conceived fawns, but the fawns didn't make it through spring. They might have been killed by predators or something like that. Another one that you have to consider is fawns usually are weaned at 12 weeks of age. So by most hunting seasons, these fawns are weaned and they might not be with the doe while she's traveling through her home range. The biggest factor to a doe not having fawns can be related to high deer densities. High deer densities equals stress among the herd. Stress among the herd means a doe might not breed, or she might breed and not conceive. This is what we have here in central Wisconsin. Too many deer for the habitat, too many mouths on the landscape, and a doe not conceiving fawns is nature's way of correcting itself.